Morning all. So today we've got a functional session all focused on planks. So we're going to get straight into it with learning technique. We'll probably go with some planks at the end for how much time we have. But it's all about getting the form right first. But we're going to start by lying down on the back. So bring yourselves down to here. Now we've done some similar stuff to press ups because there's obviously a lot of similarities with position. You are basically in a plank when you're in a press up. So we're going to start off focusing on our hips. So we want the back flat to the floor to relax to start off. Feet up, feet close to the bum, knees up, and we're just going to arch and round with the hips. So you can see here I'm arching, creating that gap, and then I'm tucking up, so rounding, and the bum's just coming off here. So I want to create that movement first, like so, up and down. So first of all, if you've done a press up functional one, this will kind of make sense. But this is where all the core engagement kind of goes wrong with press ups and planks. So having this ability to be able to arch and round the hips is pretty key. Because what we are doing is when we're tucking up, we're allowing that core to engage, we're not arching and putting the pressure on the lower spine. When you're in that weight bearing position, we're not load bearing anything at the moment because we're just lying down flat, whereas when you're in that plank, the gravity's pushing you down, your body weight, you're having to hold that up. So when you're in that position, and if you're in the wrong position in terms of the hips, you're going to put a lot of pressure on that lower back, which is why people feel their back hurting in planks. And if you do, then don't do it. But that's why I'm taking you through this today. So what we're going to do, we're going to get in a plank position in upside down. So again, not load bearing. So here we go. So we're here. First of all, I want you to tuck those hips, not so much that the bum comes off. So that's why our legs are straight. So tuck the hips up, and then we shouldn't have a gap here. There should be no gap to get your hand underneath your back by tucking those hips up. If you struggle with that, then bring your knees up a little bit to help with that motion. We want no gap under here. If you can, relax your legs out, tuck the hips up, and engage here. So now we're tucked up, core is engaged, and our arms are going up. So our arms, whether we are in a straight arm plank or on our forearms, is key where our elbows or wrists are. So they should be below the shoulders, if not level with the shoulders. They should never be over unless we're doing a specific exercise to force them into that position. When we're talking about general planks, we want to make sure our elbow is underneath our shoulder, like so. And then when we're in a straight arm plank, our wrist and elbow is underneath the shoulder, like so. So that's what we're looking for here. And obviously, now it becomes the little harder bit in this position is engaging those feet as well. So now once you've got that tuck under, those feet come together, you lift off. We're not going too hard on them, about level, if not lower than the hands, into that position. So this is a tough position to hold. You should really feel your core engaged, whether in either of these two. If that's tough for you, then good. It's probably going to be a good thing for you to start on a kneeling plank if you really struggle to get in that at all. But if you're feeling that in the core straight away, then great, but that's how a plank should feel. That's why we're doing this first. So let's come back into that position, so arms up, tuck the hips, lift the feet off, our back's flat to the floor, our core's engaged. This is not an easy position to hold, and neither should be a plank without feeling the core having to work a lot. I would say this is harder though, so it's a good place to start, but we need to be able to engage that core there. If you're arching at any point or rounding off, then we're going to have to change it and you'll be in kneeling plank for most of today. But that's where you've got to build up from. So, you should have felt that core engagement there. I really wanted to get that in first because a cue I ask people all the time in planks is, can you feel it on the core? And sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. It should really be yes. Even if you find planks really easy, you should be able to engage the core so you can feel it working rather than just being lax about it. And what I mean by that is, if I come back to that position and don't engage those hips up, and I'm in this position, quite comfortably holding this position, I've got a big arch in the back, my core's not really doing anything. I could stay here for ages and think, well, I'm in a plank position. If you take your ego out of it and forget about how long you can hold a plank or anything, the idea behind a plank, like most exercises, is to work a certain muscle or group of muscles. The plank is mainly for core bracing. So forget about holding one position forever. You want to be engaging that core the whole time. If you can hold that core engagement for the whole time, then great. But forget the plank being just an endurance exercise. It's all about core. So bring yourselves down into this position. We're going to drop the knees back. Let's get into that position. We're all going to start kneeling plank. So we'll start in a straight arm plank. See my hands, my wrists and elbows underneath my shoulders. Now we're going to tuck those hips. So from here, tuck under. So it's that little tuck. And then from my knee to my shoulder is pretty much a straight line. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're actually looking to hollow out a little bit. So if you're in like a bowl shape, more of a bowl shape like this, then that's pretty good. That means you're really tucking up, engaging that core when we're here. So just here, I can feel my core engaged, holding me up and doing something. Lifting off feet can help a little bit. So you've got less connection to the floor, but you don't have to. Tucking up there, really feel that core. I could hold this for a long time, but the fact I'm engaging that core is the key part here. Let's do the same thing when we take it down to the forearms. So check your elbows first. Are they underneath your shoulders? Once they are, let's tuck up the hips, down like so. So I've tucked up, almost rounded position. I'm feeling that core engage. Now the main thing I want to focus on in these planks is doing in front of the mirror is so helpful because you can turn to the side and be like, okay, my bum's in the air, and it happens all the time. People want to hold that position, and it feels a lot easier to drive your shoulders away and come up almost into a downward dog, which is like a resting pose. So, but my bum's in the air, I'm not doing anything for my core. So in order to prevent yourself getting in that position where you're not engaging, it's about first of all feeling the core, making sure those hips are tucked under, and then you've got to just have some proprioception, so knowing what position your body is in. So when you're tucking under, you should be able to feel how high your bum is. So if you haven't got a mirror, my height I'm not using today, you're here, so tuck under, and then if I take a little look behind, my bum is clearly lower than my shoulders. And as long as my hands are underneath my shoulders as well, you're pretty much safe to say you're in a good position. So let's take it down into a forearm plank where it's easier to have the bum higher. So I could be here, take a look back. Yeah, you can see my bum's quite high, so tuck the hips under. You can look underneath and see how close your hips are to the floor. And rounding under, take a look behind. It's definitely lower than my shoulders. That's what you've got to focus on. Start with these easy things, because if you spend a lot of time doing the wrong things, then you're going to have spent hours and not made as much progress as you should have in terms of strengthening your core. It's a lot easier to get this wrong in a full plank, of course. So we'll go through that quickly now. So let's go for that straight arm plank. So a lot of people sit here, bum up. So first of all, address the shoulders. Shoulders are over your wrists. Now, but I can still have my bum up like so, or I can still have my hips too low. Now, having the hips too low, you try and fix by tucking those hips. So I try and tuck the hips, automatically brings it up a little bit. So you've got to switch those hips on. And then even if you're really low like this, you'll feel that because your legs are sagging. But even so, my core's still doing a bit of work better than it was. But making sure the legs are then straight should then help you into that position without having your bum too high. So we'll go through that again on the forearms. So start with the shoulders. Are your elbows underneath your shoulders? Take yourself back. Am I too high? If they are, then look at my shoulders already. That's probably the problem. So shoulders over. If my bum's still too high, I need to tuck the hips and just relax down, but keep the legs straight. Don't let the legs sag. So tuck under, go through those phases and you should be okay to be in that strong position. And the good key is kind of just checking behind you underneath, seeing if you're pretty much straight, and obviously feeling the core. If you did that with me, which you should have felt the core when we got into that final position there, okay? So that's what we're looking for here. We're going to regress it back to the knees again, just to work on these positions a bit more. So focus on those hips now in this position. So bring yourselves down. So let's say the shoulders are in place, everything's fine. Let's just arch and tuck here. So again, like we did on the floor, this should be something you can do, because then you know you're squeezing the glutes on, you're tucking under, and you're feeling that core engaged. Same with the feet. So it's harder when you're in a full plank, like so. But you can really feel the core engagement, you get that tuck position. So go for a few of these, arching and rounding the hips and tucking that position there. So see how that feels. We'll do the exact same on with straight arm. You can't do enough of this, you can't overlearn the plank. So here we go, on the knees first, arch, tuck, arch, tuck, tuck, tuck. On that tuck, little hold on the last one, feel that core engaged. It's all about that feeling you get in the core, especially on the lower when that's tucked up, okay? Same on the feet. Bring yourself up, let's arch and tuck. Arch, tuck. Arch, tuck. Arch, tuck. Arch, tuck. Now one thing that you hear a lot of, which isn't a bad thing, is people saying you gotta be dead straight like a plank of wood, hence the name, which is true. Being flat is good rather than being arched or in that a downward dog kind of position. But tucking under and almost being in that hollow position is more efficient, because we're tucking those hips up more, engaging the core. So if you find someone telling you, oh, you're a bit rounded, as long as you're rounded in the right position, being that hips tucked under in that hollow position here, and that's a good position to be in, as long as you've ticked all the other boxes. Your bum's not too high, your shoulders are over your elbows, your legs are straight. Tucking under is a better way, more advanced way to engage the core, okay? So with that said, we're going to work on a few plank exercises for the remainder of this session. We're going to start with a shoulder tap. We're going to start on the knees here, like so. So we're going on to our hands, so get those shoulders right first. Now what we've got to focus on here, take the knees a bit wide for balance. What we don't want to see is a big sway. We don't have to counterbalance. So tuck those hips under, trying to keep those hips level to the floor, and then back down, like so. If you're all over the place like this, then your core isn't doing its job properly, and you need to find a stronger position or work on this position, and that's why we're starting on the knees. Carry on your knees, if this is where you're at. If you can, bring it to the feet. But again, if you're doing this, or swaying across, then regress it back down to those knees. We want to be stable, hips tucked under, core strong, like so, okay? So not only does the core help in bracing, but also helps with balance. So if you're swaying all over the place, we need to stabilise our position. We're going to take it into a mountain climber next. So obviously you can't really do these on your knees, but everyone knows a mountain climber. Everyone does them. And if you find these are too hard, then stop doing them until you can build up this plank. They're seen as like an exercise that everyone should do, but if you can't do them right, then you really shouldn't. So tuck those hips, under we come, bring a knee in and back out. I want you to kind of pause there. See a lot of this, you can feel the body's all over the place. It's not a race. If you're trying to do a rep race in a certain competition or anything, then that's fine. But generally training mountain climbers, we should have that control, bringing that knee underneath. Right, so hips tucked in that strong position. Like that, okay, so keep that going. Cool. Nice. So, they're two very basic exercises that we need to perfect before we move on to anything else. Being able to move the feet, being able to move the hands. There's easier ones than mountain climbers, which, to be fair, let's go for now. Because if you are struggling with a mountain climber, then you may want to try this. So come down onto your forearms, tuck those hips up, and then just tap to the side with your feet. Like so. So we're starting to practice lifting those feet off, like the shoulder taps. You can take the steps a bit further. The key is maintaining that position, maintain that strong, stable plank, like so. So now we've tried that as well. So that's a little regression for mountain climbers if you want to build up to them. We're going to talk about movement forward and back. So there are exercises that allow that. I told you about where the shoulder should be. Now, a saw is one of my favourite plank exercises, but it's really hard and it takes away from the fundamentals that I've already taught you, because you don't always have to have your elbow under your shoulder, but it's key important to have right at the start. So a saw is where we're not allowing that to happen anymore. So we're tucked under, we're in our forearm plank. I'm going to walk my feet backwards. So now you can see my shoulders certainly aren't over my elbows. I'm in this position here. Now, although that would not tick all the boxes of what we've been talking about today, if you do it right, then it's a really good core advanced exercise to put your core under more pressure, have to stabilise more. But you've got to go through the other things we've talked about to make sure you're doing it right. So let's have a look. If we do it wrong, then we're here, we start to lift the bum up as we walk back. This is doing nothing. It's a nice stretch on the shoulders and lats. Core-wise, it's doing nothing. So as long as you tick all the other boxes, you're fine. Those boxes being tucking the hips up and making sure your bum doesn't go up as you walk back. Now this is an advanced exercise, so if you're struggling with it, you can try it on the knees like here. Walk those knees back and keep that tuck position, hold there. If you can, you're here, tuck, walking the feet back. Now my bum's not gone any higher, I'm still in that hollow position. Literally the only difference is where my elbows are in contrast to my shoulders, and I can walk it back in. So if you can maintain that hollow position or flat position moving forward and back, then that's where we want to be. So whether you're doing this exercise on your knees, we'll go for 5 reps. So just want you to walk the feet out and walk it back in. But like I said, it's advanced, so I'll show you my first one on the knees. So here we go, walking the knees back, keeping the bum down, engaged, tucked, and then walking those knees back in. I'm going to do the final 4 on my feet. So here we go. Walking back, engaged, walking back in, keeping that tuck on. Hollow position is strong. Walking back and back in. So this is an example of a more advanced exercise. As long as you tick the fundamentals off, then you're going to be working the core and not bothering your back. If you are feeling this on the back, then maybe your hips aren't tucked up properly, or we're losing something there, which again, regress it back to those knees. And if you're still feeling it there, it is an advanced exercise. I want to show you an advanced one, so maybe just not ready for that. Start with the more beginning, build your way through this program like we did. But yeah, so the other one I want to quickly show you is, rather than the arms being the issue, it's the legs. So like a mountain climber, we're going to bring it to a Spider-Man plank. So here, we're tucked up. Now we're lifting this leg up and back. Now here, on the knees, up and back. So because we're lifting to the side, it really wants us to make our hips lift up and we're not putting our foot down. So go through the other processes. So here we go, quickly. Elbows are on the shoulders, tucked under. If we're raising our bum to do this, then we've got it all wrong. You tuck under, keep the bum low, knee comes to the side. Like so, okay? So give this a go. If you're on level 1, quickly join me on level 2 if you want to. For full Spider-Man, same again. Don't allow that bum to come up. We're tucked under. 5 on each side to finish off. Nice controlled. Maintaining that position. Last ones. And rest there. Well done, nice. So, a lot there, compacted into 20 odd minutes, but they're really the basics to go through the plank, so there's a lot to work with there, a lot to work on. So I hope you found that useful. Message me if you want any help with it further, if you're still struggling, or let me know how it's going for you. But otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for a mobility session.